I contacted LeBlime, and they agreed, like the other software providers we were looking at, to let us test their product, or Koha actually, as they presented it, without any hype from them or anything, because we wanted to see how user-friendly it was and whether it was intuitive enough that anyone could just walk in and start to use it.
Did you find it user-friendly, or was it?
We did. I did from the beginning. What we did is we compared it originally with 3 other ILS products. Very quickly, our librarians that were considering being part of the consortium knocked out one of those companies, so we were down to 3. We did side-by-side trials. We had 3 screens up, put them all up there, and did different functions so the librarians could see how easy it was. And at the end, not only because of the ease of use, but also because of the cost involved in things, our librarians, the majority, decided they wanted to go in as part of the consortium and use Koha for our new ILS.
Now, I know since then we have gone from LeBlime to using Bywater solutions now. Was there a certain reason for that?
There was. We brought up 38 libraries using LeBlime as our vendor and our host for our ILS. And in general, things went okay. However, during that time, LeBlime decided to kind of move into their own commercial products using Koha and weren't really staying completely with the community Koha. There was a lot of controversy about that and whether or not theirs was still open source or not. They said they just wanted to give their customers time to test the new features before it went into the community. So there was a lot of bad publicity for them, and people were getting more and more upset with that drift away from the actual community Koha. And that's when we decided to change to Bywater. They had gotten good comments and good reviews, and we discussed that with them at that time.
And are you finding things with Bywater to be as satisfactory as they were with LeBlime before they had their differences, let's say?
I think we've been very happy with Bywater. For myself personally, I was the Pathfinder Central Manager for over 3.5 years, and a year ago turned that duties over to someone else, and she took up with Bywater. I now back her up. But Bywater seems to have been very responsive to our needs, and they have been very adamant about staying with the community Koha and the whole open source aspect of it, which is what we believed in anyway, because we felt libraries and open source were a natural fit, because libraries are used to giving things to patrons without charge and free and sharing, and that's what we think open source does too.
And do you have any experience with closed source ILS?
I have used a number of them and consulted with a number of our libraries that have over the years used some other automated systems. In this building, before our Koha usage, we used a product called Athena, and I think for what we needed at the time, Athena was a good little program, but we wanted more features. Plus, Athena had been purchased and was kind of being phased out but we needed to grow at the time, and Koha gave us the features that we felt were important to us, as well as that grant that we were applying for.
Great. So you would say overall probably open source has more features and more options compared to closed source, especially if you don't have the funding to put into it constantly?
Or the price. Open source definitely is going to give you a lot of product for your money at times. I think there are closed proprietary systems out there that can do the same things, but as you alluded to, sometimes that price takes a little high, especially for those of us dealing with small libraries. Open source is not perfect because it's a great number of people working together to devise a new product, and not everyone sees eye to eye or understands exactly what you need, but you have that constant chance to keep tweaking it until it becomes the product you want it to. And Koha is still a work in progress.
Great. And do you have a personal preference, budget aside from, do you prefer the open because it's a community putting in together, or do you prefer the closed source?
I prefer, the open source philosophy is what initially took my attention, and then I liked the looks of Koha. There are some other open source products out there. Evergreen came out about the same time, and it looks interesting too. I think there's going to be some competition even in the open source market more and more now. I do believe in that philosophy, and I'd like to stay with that. I think there are some companies that are out there right now that are proprietary, but they've seen what's happening in the open source world, and they realize they have to be more attentive to what their customers need and want. And even though they're proprietary, I think some of them are getting better about reacting to new features because they know the open source people react pretty quickly and add in new features regularly.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your input on Koha as an open source system. I assume I have your permission to post this on the web?
Yes, you do.
Well, thank you very much.